Everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Matthew Lawrence Scigousky, and today is going to be a little different. We're going to actually take a tour of the house. This is a new camera I got, my new Sony camera, and I'm going to play around with it a little bit to start off the video. But the title of today's video is my top 10 life lessons to my 18 to 25-year-old self. And these are the things that I would advise, as well as the mistakes I would also let my younger self know to avoid. You know, I did a lot of things right all the way up until I was about 35. And then I made some pretty costly mistakes that actually cost quite a bit. I actually lost everything that I had over the course of a year in 2009 to 2010. And you know, one of my life lessons is actually just being 100% accountable. It was nobody's fault but my own. But one of the really amazing things from that time period is that over the last 15 years, so from 35, 36 to 51 right now, I rebuilt everything. Because the one thing I didn't lose was all the knowledge and experience that I had gained. And I went from, at one point, actually living in my car for about a week to now living in my dream house. And I want to give you a quick tour of it just to kind of start this video off, you know, as a kind of just a way as a sneak peek into my own life and to show you what's really possible even when you're in one of the worst places you've ever been, that you can actually turn your life around. So with that said, let's take a tour. This is the office where I record most of the videos, but we'll take a quick walk here. And the house is a little messy. I actually had foot surgery on Friday, so I'm hobbling around here. But this is the living room. And we're gonna take a walk through the kitchen all the way into the garage. This is what I would call my dream kitchen. I love to cook. Got the Viking range, the Sub-Zero fridge. But the really amazing thing about this is I would say that I manifested this house. And what I mean by that is that I put the thought in my mind when I was at one of the worst places in my life. And then I picked the destination of where I wanted to go. And 16 years later, well, made it happen. So we're going out to the back here. One of the most amazing projects that I actually worked on started about 2 years ago was what I call my garage project. And you've seen a couple videos of my car. This is Maven. Maven is the 65 427 Mustang Fastback Super Snake. And this is her home. This is the garage. And yeah, she's watching Fast and Furious. She likes that. But this garage was something that I had in my mind, and it's not even actually completed yet. But one of the things I want to show you is one of my life lessons is when you have something in your mind and you can see it, it is possible. You can make it happen. And if you look at the ceiling, this was one of the things that I had in my mind when I took this garage from basically bare bones to what it is today. So it's really amazing what you can do in life when you put your mind to something and you really believe in it. And so with that said, just want to go ahead and, you know, that's kind of just a brief tour, and I'm going to cut this and we're going to get back to the office, and I'm going to go over the video of my top 10 life lessons to my younger self. See you soon. Hey everybody, welcome back to the office. Hope you enjoyed the tour of the house and the garage. I was just kind of sitting here reflecting a little bit before I got into this, sat down in the office to do the second part of this video. And I gotta tell you, like, you know, it's been one wild ride. You know, at 51 years old, I've had quite the journey from, you know, my 20-year-old self, 18-year-old self, leading up to kind of mid 30s, 35, going through everything that I went through, which really was just complete, meltdown from 35 to 36, losing everything I had built up to that point, really being a millionaire by 30, and then having to basically be in a situation where I was literally dead broke. Dead broke, no job, 2 kids, divorced, lost not only my house, but 2 other investment properties, and went into $1 million in debt. And so to be able to just share a little bit of that with you to show you that, hey, you can go from basically scorched earth to starting over again and rebuilding everything. And what I really appreciate is just being able to get rid of all the things that were negatives in my life. A lot of good things went away, but a lot of bad things had to go away as well. So I don't want to get off track too much, but I was sitting here thinking about this, and I'm just so appreciative and grateful to be in a position now where I can share all of the life lessons that I've gone through to help you, so that not only can you excel at life, but even sometimes more importantly is maybe avoid some of those pitfalls, those traps that we can fall into, because they can really screw you up and throw some major adversities and challenges in your life. And not a lot of people know how to get out of those. So, okay, enough said. So the point of this video is, this is advice that my 50-year-old self would give my 18-year-old self, and the lessons learned through the trials and errors here, the things that I did right, and the mistakes to avoid. I will tell you that I did a lot of things right, from being a teenager all the way up until my mid-30s, and then I made some pretty major mistakes. But let's get into my top 10 life lessons here. Number 1, this is something that I would encourage every young person to do. And it's my number 1 because it's discovering your passion. It's discovering your purpose. Like having a life. I talk about having purpose in life, having purpose in the things that you do. Purpose is what fuels motivation. Discovering something that you're really good at, maybe your gift. It could be your gift, and then pursuing that, really using your gift to pursue something in life that could potentially be your calling, and more importantly, turning your calling into your career. So the sooner you can pick a destination, you can begin to plot a course. So having direction is critical. Otherwise, you're going to just be on a ship that's floating adrift. So that's my number 1 life lesson, is really just having direction in life, figuring out what your purpose is, figuring out what you're really good at, picking a destination, and then going in that direction. Otherwise, you're going to be, what happens is a lot of times you're going to see people who are in their, middle 20s, middle 30s, even 40s, and haven't figured it out. The sooner you can figure it out, the better off you're going to be. It got me way ahead in life to kind of figure out what I wanted to do when I was 18 years old. To be inspired by my best friend's uncle, who was a medical device rep. And I realized that's a decision, that was a destination I wanted as well. And then everything I did from that point forward had to line up with what I wanted to accomplish. So that's life lesson number 1. All right, life lesson number 2. This is something that I did really, really well. And this is setting yourself up financially. So these are my 2 important financial decisions that you can do, or principles that you can put into place. And if you do this in your early 20s, I believe you can retire in 20 years. You could retire in your 40s. So the majority of people were W-2 employees. So let's just face it. I mean, that's majority of the workforce. The majority of people who earn a living in the United States, around the world, work for a company or work for someone. Very few people are actual entrepreneurs. But so I kind of wanted to cater to the fact that the vast majority of people aren't going to go down that path. And the vast majority of people are going to work for someone or a company. And that's totally cool. I have. And I'll tell you what, it can be very lucrative. And if you take advantage of the things that are available, if you go down that path, you can literally retire in 20 years. So my financial plan is to do these two things. Number one, if you're working for an organization, you are going to want to take advantage of the 401k. That means that I want you to max that out every single year. You contribute as much as you possibly can to it, or as much as they will match up to. And even if there isn't a match, it's highly worthwhile to do so, simply because you are saving money tax-free. You're growing your money tax-free. And it also reduces your taxable income. So the more you put in, the less you get taxed on. My company right now does a 1-for-1 match, which means that every dollar I put in, they match that dollar. It's like free money that gets put into a savings account for me every single year. The other thing that you're going to want to do, at least this is my recommendation. This is, I think, kind of probably out of the Warren Buffett playbook, but pick high quality dividend paying companies. So companies that pay a dividend every quarter, if you put those into a 401k, not only you're getting the tax-free advantage, but then you're getting assets that are paying on themselves. So stocks that pay you every single quarter. So that's every 3 months, you're going to get basically paid, dividends. Those get reinvested into the same stock, and then there's a compounding effect that takes place. You're putting money in, the stocks you're invested in are paying you, you're buying more stock. It accumulates really quickly over time. And so over the course of a 20-year period, if you were to do this, even if you weren't even making 6 figures, there's examples of people who retire millionaires doing this. It's a very simple thing. A lot of people don't take advantage of it. You totally should. These are two of my favorite dividend-paying stocks are AbbVie and Chevron. I have a brokerage account that I set up for myself outside of my 401k, and that's something I'd recommend too. Rather than a savings account, just set up a brokerage account. Invest in high-quality dividend-paying stocks, reinvest those dividends right back into it, and over time you'll build a very large nest egg. Okay, that's one thing of what's one point in my financial advice. The other one, which is something that I did, this is one of the things I did right as a young 20-year-old, is my advice would be do not rent. There's nothing wrong with living at home for a while until you can get on your feet, and take advantage of it. I know a lot of people are like, it would suck to live at home, but guess what? You're not going to have the expenses that you're going to have as a young person if you're living at home. Understand that's an opportunity to save money. My advice would be to save up enough money so you can buy a house or a rental property, or buy your own place. Because when you're renting, all you're doing is paying somebody else's mortgage off. So what I did, I was fortunate. I moved very quickly. So by the time I was 25, I got my first medical device job when I was 23. At 23, I was making 80 grand a year. This is back in the early 90s when I started with Stryker. I started really amping it up and was making high 6 figures. But I put a lot of money off to the side. I bought my first building when I was 26 years old. So what I would advise is maybe not buy a single family house, but look for a multi-unit building, something with 2 units, 3 units. So in Chicago, I bought a 3-flat, and my wife, my fiance at the time, and my wife, basically, we bought this building, and we lived in the top unit, and then we rented out the other 2 units in the building. So what that provided was the 2 rental units actually paid the entire mortgage of the building. And what's really great about that is essentially we're living there for free. In fact, we're actually gaining money. It doesn't matter to make a profit. What you want is to cover your costs, cover your loan costs, cover your expenses, utilities, everything was paid for. And so every single month, my renters were paying off our mortgage. They were actually helping us build our equity by reducing the loan balance. And then on top of that, I was getting the growth of just the overall growth of equity year over year of depreciation from the property. So if you do those two things, which I did, by the time I was in my very early 30s, I was a multimillionaire. Just like that, by doing that. It's incredible. The building that I first bought, if I had not sold it, I did sell it in kind of mid 2000s, but if I hadn't sold it, that building is worth like $2 million right now. And I bought it for $400K. Now it's kind of a crazy example, I know. But this was, again, back in the early 90s, before the crazy real estate boom. And the thing is that those would be two things that I think if you do, they really set you up for life. And my advice would be just to stick with them. Don't sell that. Don't sell your real estate. In fact, if I was going to do it again, I would say I would have held on to that building, added more, kept building my real estate portfolio. There are so many advantages to having real estate and using equity. That's called using smart debt. It's about not being in debt, but using the debt of the building to basically fund things, because there's so many things you can do to write it off. But that's my number 2 life lesson. You do those two things, and you're in your early 20s, starting off your career, and you do that over a 20-year period. By the time you're in your mid 40s, there's a very high probability that you are going to be set up. Okay, so those are my first 2. Let's move on to life lesson number 3. Life lesson number 3, and I talk about this in a lot of videos, is about accountability. So no one is responsible for you but you. The sooner you can learn to be your own resource, the more independent and self-reliant you are going to become, and that also is going to help you become a stronger person. By being accountable, you take ownership of mistakes, and then you can learn from those mistakes and move forward. Accountability is one of the best life assets that you can ever develop, because a lot of people, and I talk about this in other videos, like to play the blame game. It's not my fault. And the reason why that doesn't work for you is because it keeps you stuck exactly where you are at. You are never going to grow as a person by blaming everybody else for why things just didn't work out. And I will tell you, accountability played a crucial role in my own life at probably one of the toughest stages that I've ever had to go through. And that was back when I lost everything I had when I was 36. I mean, can you imagine building what I built up from really early 20s all the way to 35, 36 years old, and to be in the situation I was at? And if I had just stayed the course and not made the mistakes I made, I mean, my Lord, how much further along I would be. But I will tell you, life happens. We make mistakes. We're human beings. And I made some pretty big ones. And so part of this video is also helping you avoid some of those mistakes. But accountability is what got me out of the hole that I put myself in. You can't dig yourself out of a hole. You've got to climb out of it. And accountability is the rope that I used to do just that. So that's life lesson number 3. All right, life lesson number 4 is going to be learn how to adapt to changes. So recognizing when something isn't working and then making the necessary changes is very important. Otherwise, you're going to get really good at doing something really bad. Stay humble, stay hungry. Do not let your ego get out of check. One of the traps I fell into was, I come from very humble, means. My parents, my dad was a plumber. My mother worked in retail. My parents got divorced when I was 10 years old. Didn't see my dad for a number of years. And, my mom struggled. So, having a roof over our head and food on the table was pretty awesome. And I'll say that's really all you need to succeed. But I'm very fortunate that we had that. But I will say that, I grew up having to do for myself. If I wanted something, nobody else was going to do it for me. I had to do it myself. But what happened with me was, I had some examples of people that were successful in my life. My grandfather was, but I really never experienced it. My parents were not. They were just regular folks who were trying to get by, like a lot of people. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I wanted more, and I didn't want to have to struggle. So I became incredibly successful very young, and I did a lot of things right using principles I had learned, going through all the adversity and challenges as a child, and then using all those assets I developed. But what happened with me was my ego got out of check. I had a lot of confidence, but that confidence turned into cockiness, and I became a little bit arrogant, and also just thinking, I'm the golden child. Everything I do touches the gold, because I was making some pretty serious cash. Not on top of my medical sales job, I was doing real estate deals. I was investing in the markets, and I was having some really, really big years. I was collecting some big checks. Getting 6-figure commission checks is pretty awesome. But over time, I just developed kind of this, I developed an ego that was the size of a volcano. And because of that, this was back in 2009 and 2010. This is when the mortgage meltdown happened. So if anybody is familiar with the movie The Big Short, it's a great movie because it actually is an exact depiction of everything that happened back then. But the whole mortgage market melted down. Real estate prices absolutely plummeted, and I should have recognized that and taken advantage of it. But instead, my cockiness got in the way, and I made some huge errors. I bought at the exact wrong time, and I didn't care. And I over leveraged myself, but I thought, hey, I can do anything. So what? My expenses grew so out of whack that my monthly nut, just to break even every month, was like $40,000 is what I had to make every month just to keep everything going. And it was ridiculous. And I basically, over the course of a year, depleted everything I had trying to keep everything going. And it wasn't until I kind of got to the edge of the cliff and I looked at myself and said, oh my God, what are you doing? You're doing everything the wrong way. You're making mistakes. You're not adjusting. You're just doing the same thing over and over again, thinking you're going to get a different result. And instead, I basically scorched earth. That's what I got. So my advice, and this is my advice to you, is that recognize the change, adapt to it. If you get successful, keep it in check. You see this happen with a lot of athletes that really come from humble beginnings and don't have anything, and then suddenly they have millions of dollars. And it's amazing the percentage of professional athletes who, they're great for a few years and then something happens, an injury, and they end up bankrupt. Some people end up homeless. I mean, it's unbelievable. But understand that the things that got you to where you're at, remember those. Those are incredibly important, and they're going to help you stay on course and help you avoid the same errors that I made. Because that's not something that I necessarily had to go through. I have no regrets for it. It actually ended up being an incredibly important thing for my own journey in life, but it was incredibly hard to go through. I'm grateful for it and appreciative because I stopped being the person that I'd always been. And I kind of lost part of myself, and I was somebody that I didn't want to be. And by really kind of getting stripped down to the bone, well, I got rid of all the crap too, and it allowed me to start over again. And so over the last 15, 16 years now, I've been able to build everything back even better. And I left all the garbage behind. So that's number 4. Number 5, life lesson: become an expert at something. Build a skill set that others will pay you for. So my expert skill set was really to become a high-level salesperson. Now I've used my sales skills in the medical device industry, but that skill set can transcend into anything. And I've used it for over 30 years to earn high 6-figure income every single year. What I'm going to tell you though is that the more skill sets that you build and master, and then you stack those skill sets on top, the more valuable you become as a person, and the more options you have to pivot into other areas and do other things. So pick one thing and then do another thing. That's number 5. All right, this is number 6. So number 6, and I see this all the time, is to work smart, not hard. Now, this has nothing to do with not putting in effort, because trust me, I put in a lot of effort, but I don't always have to work hard. I know how to leverage certain things, and I work smart. So, if the answer to financial success and people, living abundant lives was to just work super hard, then 75% of the population wouldn't be living paycheck to paycheck, because there's a lot of people who work their asses off and they're just trying to keep their heads above water. So what exactly does working smart mean? It means really to put your energy and time into things that have a payoff. Have an intention for everything you do and the people you meet with. Oprah Winfrey, actually, this is one of her go-to things. She will not take whatever phone call she takes. What is the intention of the phone call? Whatever person she meets with, she wants to know what the intention of the meeting is. Having an intention. What I will tell you as a salesperson is that I don't get paid based on how many hours I work. I get paid based on the results that I produce with the time that I have. So if I can learn, or if you can learn to leverage time, my income can go up and I don't need to work any harder. I know it may sound a little confusing, but at the end of the day is that a lot of people put themselves in positions to work for time. I get paid whatever dollar amount every single hour, and that's the limit that is set for you. Now I get it. In today's society, that is the way a lot of things are set up. But I chose a career path because I didn't like that. I wanted to remove limits, and I wanted to get paid off of results. So that's the position I put myself in. That's something I would recommend to you. Work smart, don't work hard. All right. Number 7, and this is an interesting one. It's companionship. So one of the areas I have probably struggled with, for as much success as I have had, for as many great things as I have done, I will tell you that the area that I have struggled with the most is this one. It's relationships. And I think companionship is really important. I actually have learned to value it. It's something that I strive for. I was married for 10 years. I have 2 wonderful daughters in their 20s. I have worked really hard on the relationship with them and have a great relationship with my kids. But ever since I got divorced, I have definitely struggled with relationships. And I think a lot of it just has to do, you have to look at yourself really hard in the mirror, really be honest with yourself. But I think it's important to understand that, for as many strengths as you might have, is to also understand what your weaknesses are. This was one of my weaknesses. It's something that I continue to work on. I've had girlfriends. I've had serious relationships. I was engaged recently with someone that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with, and was together with her for 4 years, and then got unengaged. And for the last year, I've been um, totally solo, not dating, have just pretty much kept my focus 100% on all the things I'm doing in life. But I will tell you that is something, if I could give my 18 to 25-year-old self some advice, is just to make sure and really put an importance level on that, whether it's being with a life partner, but also just investing in your friendships. The one thing that I have done a good job with is I have a number of really good close friends. Not a lot. I only have a couple really, really great friends, and I know a lot of other people. But it's such an important thing to have in life, to have those people that you can spend time with, enjoy their company, they enjoy yours, and then also more important is like the kind of people that they're there when things they're there if they need you or you need them. So that's my number 7 life lesson, and it's something I'm continuing to work on, but I just think it's incredibly important. All right, let's move on to number 8. Number 8 is your spirit. And I talk a lot about mindset. I talk a lot about the power of your thoughts, the power of how you think, design thinking, and being able to manifest the things you want in life, and the power of positivity and all that. But something that's just as important that probably doesn't get talked about enough is your spirit. Because what I equate your spirit to, your spirit is your heart. And it's really important. There are a lot of people with broken spirits, just killing time to really kind of get through this thing called life, and maybe just get there safely, get to the end safely. I know that sounds kind of bleak, but a broken spirit will cause you to really not try anymore. And I see this all over the place. You can see it on people's faces when someone's spirit's just broken. And so the best thing that I have found to just have a full heart and to fill your spirit is to have gratitude and appreciation, even in the tough times, for the things that you do have in your life, and to also give. I would call it those 3 points: gratitude, appreciation, and giving. And giving doesn't have to just be about money. In fact, I think actually, let's just put that off to the side. Giving is about just recognizing when someone needs someone to talk to. When you can put a smile on somebody's face, when you can recognize that someone, needs a shoulder to cry on. There's all different kinds of ways to give. And when you do those 3 things, I really believe that your spirit will just, you'll have a full spirit, even when you go through tough times. So that's just one of the best things that I found, is have a full heart, full of gratitude, full of appreciation. The most joy I experience is when I impact someone in just an incredibly profoundly positive way. And, a way that becomes a pivotal point. If it becomes a pivotal point in their life to make a change, then the gift I get is really just kind of like, I would tell you, it's not even something I can measure, but the gift in return from someone having an interaction with me, and then they make a life change that puts them in a really great direction, is just something that it's a gift I can't really explain it. It's overflowing joy. It makes me incredibly happy. And so that's my number 8 life lesson, is just really don't put your spirit off to the side. Don't put your heart off to the side. Not everything is about just how much money I can make and how many things I can accumulate. Like, none of that stuff is really even that important if you have a broken spirit. So pay attention to it. It's incredibly important. All right, let's move on to life lesson number 9. And life lesson number 9 is the power of your thoughts. So I didn't really figure a lot of this stuff out until it's amazing because as a child, I was having certain thoughts, making things happen, but it wasn't probably until I was a little bit later in life that I really started to discover and dive in to the power of thinking, and the concept really is that the thoughts that go through our minds is the reality of our lives. And, I think that the more you can gain an understanding of this, that you are in control of your thinking, that you can design the kind of thoughts that work for you, and even more importantly is keeping certain thoughts out. We're bombarded with media all day long. We're bombarded with people trying to get into our heads, and having an understanding that you can control which ones get in, and even more importantly, which ones stay out. And any kind of toxicity, negativity, I stay away from it. I want nothing to do with it. It's not going to serve you. So it's really important, I'd say, speaking to my younger self, and if you're young, is really pay attention to the type of things you watch, the type of things you listen to, and really maybe kind of, take an inventory and spend some time and really pay attention, like, how are you thinking? What type of conversations are you having with yourself? Because we all talk to ourselves, and that's thinking. So that's number 9. It's really important. But if you can put some time into that and understand that the way you think is going to define the reality of your life. All right. I can't believe we're at number 10. All right, so this is number 10. Number 10 life lesson to my younger self and to anyone else that's out there that's in their, in this position, 18 to 25, is time. Time is the only resource that is limited, and we only have so much of it. And I'm going to tell you something, it's incredibly easy to neglect, especially when you're younger, because you think, oh, you're not thinking that, that you don't have a limited amount of it. You're probably thinking like, oh, I got plenty of time, but you never know how much time you have, and there's examples of it all the time, every day. There's young people who, leave way too early. Things can happen. And so, my number 10 life lesson of time is simply this: stop wasting it on things that bring zero value to you. Things that distract you from pursuing the dreams and goals you have is complete waste, because there's no rewarding payoff for it. So there you go. Those are my 10 life lessons. I honestly believe you don't even need to incorporate all of these to make an incredible change in your life, to have incredible impact in your life. But if you take these 10 have been the core life lessons for me. Like I said, I did a lot of things right when I was younger, and I was on track, but life happens. And I made some major mistakes in my mid-30s, and then I had to rebuild everything from 36 to 51 over the last 15 years. What I will tell you, though, is it's been incredibly rewarding. And there's things that I'm doing today that I do not believe I would have been doing if none of those bad things and challenges and struggles had happened. So that's it for today. I hope you really enjoyed it. Like I always say, if you enjoyed this, hit the like button. I would love for you to leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me if any of this has been helpful and valuable for you. And if you like what I talked about today, subscribe to the channel. Like I say, I drop short videos every single day on thoughts. Pay attention to those, by the way, because I am doing a contest with those. It's 101 thoughts to change your life. The person who leaves the 101st comment on the 101st thought will win $1,100. So check out the shorts. Subscribe to the channel, and love to have you be a part of this every single week with me. It's an honor and a privilege. So until next time, this has been Matthew Lawrence Scigousky. I'll see you.